Welcome to the Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we are going to recap Fight to Win 167, headlined by Tim Spriggs versus Victor Hugo. We are going to preview Who's Number One, Gordon Ryan versus Vagner Rocha, and we are going to preview Fight to Win 168, the third all-women's card. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, the co-host,
Josh.
How you doing, Josh?
Great.
This is an old school show. It is, what is it?
Sunday night at almost 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock start time on Sunday night. So as a result, in true Grappling Rewind fashion, the Third Coast Grappling bracket comes out tomorrow morning. So we're not going to get a chance to preview that on this show. Look for that next week when we preview the entire Third Coast Grappling card. It is going to be awesome. Very, very much looking forward to that. It happens on April 3rd, the same day that... EUG happens, which is a great featherweight tournament.
This happens.
I always want to call it up your game, and it's not up your game; it's elevate your game. And I always it's always wrong in my head. So not a whole lot of news this week, Josh. Just really everyone's hammering on who's number one. Biggest piece of news is if you have not got a chance to look at Flow Grappling's very small almost documentary teaser video on Gordon versus Vagner. It's about 25 minutes long. Go watch it.
I haven't seen it yet.
Dude,
Maine just told me about it, so
awesome.
I'm pretty stoked on that one.
I kind of like that stuff, I think, more than your average bear, but it was, I watched it, somebody sent me the link, and I started watching it on my phone, and went 25 minutes later, I was like, yo, I have a computer in front of me, I have a TV I could watch, I sat and just, I
do that shit all the time.
Dude, it was enthralling. I was like, I was into it, and I was like, oh, yeah, they didn't go about the history as much about the three matches they've had before, but we can talk about that if you're unfamiliar with their history.
They want to make it seem like it's more competitive than it's probably going to be.
And we'll talk about that in the preview section, but still, it was hype, and I was cool, and I honestly kind of forgot how eloquent of a speaker Vagner is, and I want to see more of Vagner being a speaker.
Both great speakers.
Yeah.
It's just that... one of them has a really cringy personality most of the time. Don't get me wrong, and Maine brought this up in the chat earlier this week. He goes, have you guys heard the Gordon Ryan audio when he smacked the shit out of Andre Galvão? Not to beat a dead horse, sorry guys. And we were like, yeah, you didn't watch the video? And he's like, oh no, I wasn't really paying attention to the audio. And how Gordon said he would literally beat the fuck out of Andre Galvão in front of everybody. I was like, yeah,
I missed that.
That was one of the pimp parts of him doing that. He's so confident that he would beat his ass.
And that was the thing that kind of, again, I don't want to hammer the song. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. I actually, personally, fucking hate that kind of
all the hypey bullshit, the Conor McGregor-esque shit, I'm not super into because people are now selling themselves as I'm a great shit talker, but as soon as somebody gets clapped and then they're done, you're like, okay, what is that shit talk got you?
Yeah,
fucking missing tooth.
Not a huge fan of that, but as far as the match is interesting, and I just had missed that. I had not heard that audio transcript as clearly, and I was like, oh, that was surprising. Freaked out in the chat 2 weeks later, and everyone in the chat on the Grappling Rewind team went, man, we all heard that a couple weeks ago. Get with the times, showrunner.
Yeah.
So that's all I got for news. Maine's a couple weeks behind on news apparently, which is why we haven't had news in a couple weeks. So look, I got surgery coming up.
There's your news.
That is. Well, we talked about it last week. We'll talk about it in the outro again.
We're gonna keep.
You got
talking.
a dog.
We're
exciting things. So let's move on to the recap. Unless you got any other pressing news, Josh.
No.
There's basically a bunch of new matchups announced for other cards. We're gonna preview those essentially next week when those cards are more pressing. If you want to hear us kind of talk about a little bit, listen to last week's show where we kind of talked through a bunch of the announcements. There's not been a huge amount of announcements since then. So, again, in an effort to not beat a dead horse, let's move on with the show. On to our recap of Fight to Win 167, headlined by Victor Hugo versus Tim Spriggs in no-gi. So I had some problems actually previewing some of this stuff. So I don't have a full list of results in front of me.
It's not just nobody has a full list because they're not up yet. We can't find them anywhere. Normally Seth posts them, but he also is a busy, crazy person doing all sorts of shit, probably still trying to find some people matches. Who knows?
Yeah.
Just being his hustling self.
So we actually don't have a full cap of results this week. So we're
maybe he said, fuck it. Somebody else should do the job instead. And he's like, somebody else figure it out. Watch it, and then you figure out the results.
Yeah. So we're going to go through the main card here, the stuff we talked about. Let's start with Victor Hugo versus Tim Spriggs.
This happened exactly like we talked about, where one guy is bigger than the other one, and they're going to have trouble.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that there's two things in this match that were surprising. A, that Victor Hugo finished, like, I really had a hard time figuring out exactly, on the first couple watches, exactly what heel hook he finished on Spriggs here.
50-50, like...
But it was like a belly down. It was not a heel hook that I'm used to seeing as far as the body positioning of Hugo with where the heel was.
So he must have had a great bite with that 50-50 positioning, but you also saw that Spriggs was trying to do the runner's escape. And why does it feel like we talked about this last week, where somebody was trying to do the runner's escape and didn't get out?
Was it a quintet match?
Because they don't heel hook. It might have been another fight to win match.
Yeah, I think it was. It's a really common escape.
It's a common escape, yes, but
it
normally the guy gets out.
Yeah,
when you do it. He had a great bite, and from what I could tell, because they showed the opposite angle,
that was sort of helpful to me.
It was technically like an inside heel hook by the way it was set up. I think I'm remembering this correctly. But he just went in and started to crank and rotate. That's pretty interesting. I just went to the main page of Flow, and it said Victor Hugo wants Vinny Magalhães next.
Let's talk about that after this match, then.
Yeah.
Because that's an interesting match. A guy
absolutely. But he just had a great bite on it, had it locked in. Once he locked it in, Spriggs could not get away, and he just extended out like we talked about was it last week? No,
it had to have been last week.
No, we're talking about it when it was the Gabby versus Nachielli match.
Yes.
Where Gabby wasn't extending the leg out when she was doing the heel hook. Victor did. So, you have that where he extended it out and finished it. And again, you have a giant guy that's trying to rip off your leg, and it kind of sucks.
The thing that kind of surprised me initially in the match was Spriggs electing to go for like the step over knee bar from the topside position. That was very, very surprising. We've seen Spriggs do leg locks, but it's just, when I think of Tim Spriggs, that is not the pathway that I think of. I think of Spriggs like the prototypical Spriggs match that I always kind of think about, if Spriggs playing his game that he wants to play, is the Kaiway match, where he's on top of you, he's putting pressure on you, he's forcing you to extend, he's trying to make you make a mistake from bottom position. Like, that is where Tim Spriggs wants to be. So to see him throw over for the knee bar was very, very surprising, because it's just not a pathway that we typically see Spriggs go with. And so I was like, wow, and I had watched it a couple times. I was like, look at that. He's into it, and the bite's pretty good, and he goes to the side, and Hugo very quickly gets his hips down and starts, attacking. And actually, Hugo's able to sweep off of this. And I thought it was really interesting. As Spriggs starts to disengage, Hugo is able to come up and sort of like beat him on the tech in order to force Spriggs to basically get swept here. They're up and down for the rest of the match, but those two things were the things that were most interesting to me in the match, is that Spriggs elected to go for the knee bar, because that's not something we typically see him do, and that Hugo was able to finish this kind of odd positioned 50-50 heel hook on the outside.
Okay, I'm rewatching it again while you were explaining that point. So he was not trying to running man escape. I was absolutely incorrect. And what's happening is, so Hugo's actually got an arm like up near his crotch when Spriggs is facing away, when he's not 100% locked in that 50-50, but he's using it to keep him extended. And he goes for the straight ankle, and
that's
Spriggs
initially
clears
what I thought it was.
But his foot, because of the way where they were both belly down, it wasn't a good bite to get the foot for the straight ankle lock. And the way the ankle was pointed was like perfect to just grab the heel hook and go. And watching it again, they're zooming in. He goes around, hooks it, just twists. Yep, his body is extending out, and he's rotating the way he's supposed to rotate, and he finishes it. So he didn't try to fully running man escape, and that actually then might have helped. And it was still like there was like a minute and some change left. But like, that's a big dude. That's a strong dude.
Yeah, Hugo, they talked about Hugo is all of 265. And like, if you ever seen him, just he's an interesting proportion guy, and Spriggs is like 220. Like there's a 45-pound difference there probably.
That's a big deal.
And again, they're both the same height. I think is what you said. I think they're both 6'3". They're both tall dudes. Hugo's just a much stockier guy than
the
Spriggs.
Proportions are a little bit different than what.
So interesting match overall. Kind of varies. I did not pick this by Victor Hugo heel hook. Like that was not what I elected or what I thought happened. Again, I did talk about it though. That
Hugo, did he lose to Tackett? Am I forgetting this, or was that somebody else?
I think Tackett. I think he beat Tackett. I think he beat Tackett at Third Coast.
Who did Tackett recently heel hook? Then that was also a big dude.
Felipe Andrew.
That's what it is.
Manuel Hebamar. He
No. Before that, Felipe Andrew.
Yeah, he's done it twice. He's toe holded him.
I don't know why I always think it's Victor Hugo, but whatever.
Big giant guys fighting guys that are a little smaller than them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't 100% go the way I thought it would, but it.
Victor Hugo is an underrated. That's what I was going to say before the point got off.
Yeah,
Victor Hugo is an underrated. It's a late show. We're both not used to late shows anymore.
Yeah.
He's an underrated leg locker. Like that knee bar over Cyborg at Nogi Worlds 2019 always sticks out in my head really, really like as a moment because Cyborg going to have that crazy 2020 after that knee bar. But the setup Victor Hugo used and like the control that he had, he is very much an underrated leg locker, especially as big as he is from the guard.
And what was even better was, and what I appreciate from Highwell Teague, is that he's like, oh, he's going for the neck for the guillotine. And he's like, oh, he's known for his guillotine. I'm like, okay, what isn't he known for then? Like he's known for his full guard. He's known for being like a leg locker.
I wouldn't say he's known.
He's known. It's just like you said, he's underrated about it.
I know Victor. You say Victor Hugo. I think of his guard pull and his open guard and closed guard game at ultra heavy. That's what I think of
in the gi. Yeah,
in the
absolutely.
gi, like he is the dude you're like, do not get in Victor Hugo's guard.
I'm like the outlier on the Grappling Rewind when it comes to like the main guys that host. Is like I'd rather watch gi matches, and I know like Emil.
I think Zach would too. Zach's a gi guy.
Yeah, but I'm just no, he's on there more frequently. He's on here more frequently now, but like I find it more enjoyable than Nogi. You know,
I swing back. Honestly, for me,
like
it's
I'll
more
watch
so
Nogi,
guys.
but I enjoy the little nuanced, even if it's boring. Like I enjoy the tiny little things.
Well, let's move into gi then. We got two really fun gi matches on this card. We're gonna talk about Pedro Marinho versus Jake Watson first, or Gabriel Sousa versus Casino first.
Gabriel Sousa versus Casino.
Osvaldo Moizinho. I gotta stop doing
Osvaldo
only the nickname.
Moizinho Casino.
Does it supposed to rhyme?
No,
because it does.
It flows together.
Does he realize this? I gotta ask him.
Who?
Next time I interview him, I'll ask him. Hey, do you know your nicknames rhyme? Even though that he'll look at me like
it's not his nicknames. Like Casino is his nickname.
Yeah.
His name is Osvaldo Moizinho.
Casino Moizinho. Yeah. So moving on to this match. This is why we don't do late shows anymore, Josh.
Yeah, probably.
Moving on to the Osvaldo Casino versus Gabriel Sousa match. Where do we start with this?
We don't have to start anywhere. It was a slower paced match. Mm-hmm. You had Gabriel Sousa start to pull almost immediately, at the same time as Casino trying to like hook his leg in to try to go for a takedown, and people could have thought, oh, that was it, but no. And he hit a fairly good Tomonagi, and he just up and over and came out on top. There was a lot of gripping. There was a lot of messing with the lapels, but not in like a full blown lapel guard. Like it was to use to open up for like spider and collar and sleeve.
Both guys were, whenever whoever was on top or on bottom, they were looking for spider guard sleeve. Or collar sleeve guard.
Or double sleeve guard.
And because both those guys operate in those guards so frequently at the high level, like both were kind of going, yeah, I'm not really going to let you get the grips that you need to get me into your game. And it was for me, what was interesting about this is the denial of grips without the sacrifice of like position. They were like
they were fighting it, like they were legitimately fighting it, but then going back in and reattacking. So it was just like really, it was strategic, which led to a slower paced match.
It's always harder for me to talk about those matches on the show because it's like, well, there's a lot of grip fighting. There's nothing specific that sticks out in my head as like this particular. It's like,
there
this
were
is just
specific
featherweight
like
grip fighting.
sweeps where it's like, oh, this guy swept this guy, this guy swept this guy, and it's like you can't say like what factors in more. They both did like the sellout for the footlocks, but we're not going to finish it kind of footlocks,
Right.
And it was a split decision.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. I don't need something in front of me to say that. But again, like that was a legitimate split decision to where I wasn't 100% sure.
That was one of those I'm
won.
very
It was
happy not to
close.
judge it.
Yes.
There are definitely points in the match that I would have definitely given to Kashina. Like there's a couple of really, really good guard pulls into like control. Soza has a really good slam in the match. That was like the defining characteristic. And that's what at least commentary was talking about. It's like the defining thing. It's like the big slam. It's like, yeah, if you're looking at submission attempts, they both kind of went feet back and forth, but that slam really was the big, if you're going to score it, first fight to win scoring in the match, wins it for him. Again, split decision.
I would love, and we've talked about this before, where you go over the scoring criteria, but doing it right before each belt level starts, depending on like when people come in.
Kind of like what UFC does when the main card starts.
Yes.
They go through like, hey, here are the scoring criteria for.
But that's at the very beginning, and that's it. And they expect you to do that.
Yes.
To remember that. And there's a pretty like, unless there's weird nuanced rules, a la like Las Vegas or somebody else.
I do appreciate them saying, hey, we're using this set of rules. We are in Vegas, and they mentioned like where they're in, and then we are using X, Y, and Z like special rule for this area.
If they just have their things where they can put a graphic up and be like, this is the scoring criteria, like before the, like right before the first match goes. Okay, here, boom.
Yeah.
Or the first like set of matches go.
The black belt, the black belts, the purple belts, the brown belts.
You know, and then the blue belts, and then the purple belts, and you see it each time. So if you've watched it, you're like, okay, I know. But if
it's
you're
always
popping in at a
quick
random time,
graphic, too.
10, 15 seconds, about as long as the commercials that. Like the little ad breaks for the sponsors that they show. Mm-hmm. Give yourself a little bit more time, bump it, show it. Again, get everybody more familiar. And as your rule set continually evolves, which Fight to Wins has.
Which is great, by the way. Thank you.
You can update it and show it. Oh, that was different from this card, so they've updated it again.
Mm-hmm.
I can't complain about it. Like, it was a legitimate split decision, and this happened a couple of times on the card, like the next two matches actually, to where it was kind of close, and you're like, oh.
One item that I want to talk about in this match is I want Gabriel Sousa's gi. That shit was fire. It had a bunch of like Japanese print, like tattoo print inside.
I
love that shit.
I
love that shit, Josh.
Like, don't get me wrong. If you can go back and find them, there's video of me in tie-dye gis. There's video of me in like
makes me disappointed.
Weird colored gis, whatever. Like, as I've gone through times, I'm just like, give me a plain gi, and I'm fine with it.
Josh, I'm still compensating for a lot of things in my jiu-jitsu game. I want the flashy gi. I know what I'm about. So, moving on to the next match. Unless you got anything else on this match before we get off too much on this late night show. Let's move on to another gi match. Pedro Marinho versus Jake Watson. This is Pedro Marinho's debut in the gi in black belt.
He did well.
He did well. Especially versus a guy that is such a proficient, like, again, what we talked about in the dynamic last week. Jake Watson is a slow you down, use the lapels, posture you down, and get you into his game. Yes.
So there wasn't like something that stood out to me where, again, somebody won. You know, and it was like really close back and forth.
I would not want to have been the judge on this match because there was a bunch of modes. Okay, do you count that footlock? Do you not count the footlock? Do you count the control of Watson looking to play the omoplata game? Or do you count the Pedro actively looking to pass and actively on the feet? You know, consistently? Do you like the headhunting? There were so many different criteria in this match to judge it by. I think Watson wins this just because of overall dynamic in the match and the two omoplata attempts. Like, the first one was good, not finishable, and Pedro did a really great job of, stack of blocking the top foot from coming over and continuing to cut the angle. He did a really good job of fighting up out of the grips, but he was never able to really get out of Watson's gripping game. And even when he was on the feet, you could see Watson like lifting his grips up higher and pulling Pedro back in. And Pedro never got that freedom of separation in order to like really attack on the feet. And in watching that, I was like, okay, very close match. Both guys are active and working. It's great. But I think that those two pieces from Watson and the overall dynamic of the match and Watson slowing Pedro down gives it to Watson.
Right. And it's not like, oh, no, that was a bad choice, where it's like Mourinho should have won it.
Right.
Where we've seen things where we've gone, no, that person definitely lost. And like, who's scoring this? And and again, so jumping for the match after that to Thiago Macedo, Cole Franson, they both had their attempts. Franson was attacking the neck a lot.
They both were attacking the neck. This was like
this
was a match that I liked a lot. There was I love matches when both guys are like, I want your neck. I'm like, I'll watch this match all day.
They were just both attacking and going at it. There were some times where, like that no arm triangle that Macedo had, I was like, that's just like kind of bullshit. But then like I see it locked in deeper, and you see Franson's face. I'm like, ooh. Maybe he might finish it.
I did the same thing, and that was probably the piece I want to talk about. That's actually, I try to pick a technique piece out of each one of the matches we kind of recap. That was the one that I wanted to watch, or I wanted to see somebody just drop something giant upstairs. That was great. Hope they don't hear that on the audio show. The no-arm triangle was really interesting because I said the same thing at the beginning. I was like, okay, there's no way he's going to finish that. It's a no-arm triangle. Like, Cole Franson is a very established competitor, like, knows where it is. And then I looked at...
Yo, that shit was tight.
I looked at the positioning of Macedo's legs, and I looked at Franson. I did the same thing you did. Looked at Franson's face, and I went, oh, Franson's not, like... happy about this.
That was no
his
bullshit.
Face,
like, I gotta go.
His face, like, and you see him start to drop it.
And he did the legs over top to try to pull himself out. I was like, oh, that shit's tight. Like,
yeah, because you don't give up that position. You don't give up your legs there. And
the thing in my memory that I can go to with no arm triangles without punching the gi across is that Cowboy Cerrone fight, the one where he got popped for diuretics. But he finished the fight, so it got turned into a no contest.
You know what year ago that is?
That was 2000. That was not even in the 10s. I think it was late 2000s.
I think that's like a 07 fight. That's
14 years ago.
Is that pre-WEC?
No, that was like
that
was WEC.
Yes, that might have been because that was pre him on the Tap Out show. Because he talked about it on the Tap Out show, I think.
I have the box set of that show.
Do you really?
I got it for like $3.
Can I borrow it? I have actually never seen it all the way through. I've just seen clips.
Let me find it in my basement.
Josh, we just got old, by the way.
I've been old, dog.
Yeah, but like we just...
Like if I go, 14 years ago, when I say 14 years ago, I go, what was I doing 14 years ago?
I shot a wedding thing tonight for my cousin, and at the bar, we were the location was a bar, and they had a sign there, it was closed, and it was, had to be born in 2000 to drink. I was like, I looked at my cousin, I was like, that was 21 years. Like, we were doing stuff in 2000. Non sequitur here. Do you have any kind of want to get back to the match or not?
Yeah, 14 years ago was, if we go back 14 years
so the Cowboy
today,
fight, yes.
If we go back 14 years today, I'm getting ready to get married in like 2 months.
I'm getting ready to get married in like 4 months.
So, yeah, 14 years ago. God damn, I'm old.
So talk about the no-arm triangle while I figure out what fight this was.
The way he set it up, I'm just like, oh, snap. And at first, because it snapped it on, I was like, oh, he's got a triangle. Shit, he might finish this. Then I was like, oh, no arms. Pfft. And then I go, oh, no, that's legit tight. He's got a squeeze. And I'm like, yeah, like I can see myself finishing that because I got these massively gross like thighs that I can try to squeeze your head with.
You have.
They're no Ben Henderson thighs.
They're not.
But, they're fairly large.
30 2007.
It was 2007.
That was good, Josh. I got WC, you got 2007.
But, that was like a big thing too where it's like, holy shit, that was a legit like 5 points. Like that's a near submission finish. Yeah. So it's like, it was still back and forth with how they were attacking.
That was his first fight in WEC.
You see him like pulling away at that point.
Yeah. Really interesting technique, something you don't
Yeah.
see a lot. One thing I like about the arm triangle that some guys do, actually a lot of 10th Planet guys will do it, is they will thread their own arm in there.
Yeah, they normally
Franson did a really good job of not having enough space. Like he made Thiago have to close the space fully enough so that he couldn't get something on the artery on the neck to finish it. But looked super tight, which is cool because again, you don't see that finish like that ever. You didn't see it finish like that in this match, but Franson demonstrably had to defend it. And I think for me actually, I thought that was like the most defining piece of the match, especially right at the end. Like it was very close, lots of traded attempts back and forth. Again, Franson's always a fun guy, especially
but so
in
is
the fight.
Macedo.
Yeah, he is.
So
this was one of those like both guys tend to produce really fun and interesting matches.
let's jump up
very
a little
good
bit
match.
further on the card.
Let's go in. So yeah, I had some issues with.
So again, Maine was having issues with accessing the videos, and again, normally Monday's a lot easier because
Things are parted out.
Things are parted
there's
out.
Results.
There's results. Things of that nature. But schedules worked out this way, so we're here Sunday. Hasim Rida versus Nanzo Ebdi. And the commentary staff,
Killed it, Josh.
which switched, thank you, that switched with, like, they were before Highwell and Kendall Ryusing. They were like, this is the match of guys with hard names. I'm like, I mean, you can.
A lot of guys don't know Hasim that, and it's really frequent. We see him. We see a bunch of people in the last like month that keep pronouncing his name wrong, which is kind of funny to me. I've listened to a bunch of different shows because that's what I do in my free time, and a lot of guys are just being turned on to who he is, and it's very funny to like call them. They call him Isaac. They call him Hasim. They call him Rida. They call like as a first name or last name. It's been really interesting to watch people very slowly turn on to who he is.
So you have two guys that are like very equally similar in stature, both like height and weight and body type. And it was a lot of just like back and forthing where they were on their feet a lot. A lot of something that stood out to me was Hasim's hip bump to mount, where I was just like, in my head I go, that's like just plain old jiu-jitsu. And then you hear commentary go, that's just old school straight up jiu-jitsu. Like, I'm paraphrasing.
Rida has really good hips, and he can pop them up very, very quickly. We saw this in a lot of his Dallas or Atlanta, I think Atlanta Open or Dallas Open.
One of those.
One of the two open matches. He had a bunch of like really heavy transitions from the bottom, and you'd see him just pop up. He's very long-limbed, and he'd pop off of his hips and just hit guys in the chest with his torso or with his like hips.
That wasn't even really the case. When he sat up for this one, it was like strict, like close guard turnover.
Yeah.
Almost like Nanzo was just like, I'm just going to let it happen. Not saying he would.
Yeah.
But
it looked like it was a very, very smooth from the closed
yes.
guard open, turned up and came up.
Hasim attacked the arm and attacked the triangle, and he looked really good. And he definitely, he won the match. It was, clear that he won the match. But again, he brought it up in an interview where he wants to get the submission, and I get that. Like, I want to see him in the gi, in Fight to Win, like have him work and just do those things to where he can slow people down or catch them in something and get the submission. It's not like he wasn't attacking either, and this is another thing that you see jumping into another fight. With David Garmo when he went against Saul Vieira.
There was a really cool Instagram video of Garmo's like 4-step transition over to the mount, then to the armbar, to the over. Like
he was constantly on the hunt, like constantly attacking the neck. A few times he almost nabbed a guillotine. He was trying to get the arm.
Garmo's another guy that is really like an all-terrain guy in that he.
But what surprised me about that, not to interrupt you, is the fact that like he's wearing a knee sleeve. I don't know if there was a brace in there.
He always does.
But he kept pulling it up, and Saul, I'm gonna say Saul, let him fix it. I'm like, dog, that's when you need to attack. Like, fuck it. And Saul, like, not saying like he looked bad either. He was great. He had very good guard play. He was able to get underneath. He almost took David's back. David, for a lot of it, though, was just like ahead and just very heavy with his passing and good with his guard work.
David's the kind of guy that I really like in Fight to Win because he is a guy that is super dangerous in everywhere. Like, he can finish you from a rear naked choke, he can finish you with a guillotine, he can finish you with an armbar, he can finish you with a leg lock, and he will preferentially enter into whatever he thinks he has the best shot in. Like, he's not a guy that's only going to shoot for your legs, and then if he gets your back, he'll go to your back. Like, oh, if he sees a pathway to your back, he'll go to your back. Oh, if he sees a pathway to your neck, he'll go to your neck. Like, I was trying to figure out before we did the show this week, like, how to explain why I like that style. Like, very much like Gary Tonin. Like, Gary Tonin is not just a leg locker. Gary Tonin is an opportunistic submission guy where it's like he can finish you wherever he wants, and he's just going to pick what he thinks is the best course of action there. Garmo is a guy that is very, very similar to that, and it's like if he sees an opening for something, his submission finishing is good in all ranges, and so he'll start to go for that. It's cool to see. It's very fun to watch.
So, like, I don't want to pigeonhole people into one or two things, but he's very submission oriented. He's the hunter type of jiu-jitsu player where he wants the finish. And then there's positional players where they want to get the position first before they'll hop on anything because they don't want to lose an inch.
Yeah.
Like, I can say for sure in the beginning of my jiu-jitsu career, I was a hunter for sure. Like, I'm just going to throw it. I don't care. And as I've gotten later into my jiu-jitsu and as I've gotten older, I've become very, like, positional where I want to settle and get things and make sure I'm there and not lose any work that I've done. Yeah.
It's interesting. Like, you can pick guys based upon sort of how they see when they're winning the match. Like, Garmo's the guy that sees winning the match. I'm guessing. I don't want to speak for David Garmo, but he sees himself winning the match when he is submitting his opponent. Like, Gordon Ryan's a very similar guy. We'll put a lot of positional stuff in there because he wants to take inches to get there.
He's positional first, but he is still a hunter of, like, the finish.
In the preview for the Flow, he talked about, like, he wants to go in and do jiu-jitsu and finish people. Like, he doesn't consider himself winning unless he's finishing. Like, Garmo, I think, is another guy that's very, very similar in that respect. Yes. Other guys from certain camps especially are like they are winning if they get on top of you.
I'm winning if I'm winning. If I'm ahead on points, if I'm ahead on advantage.
And the submission is not important at all to them. It's like, I want to beat you, whatever rules it is, and just win.
It's a bonus if you get the submission.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys, like, even now we see it kind of in the last couple of years, like, we have guys that actively aren't submission guys that are just, like, positional people.
You have, like, Leandro Los.
Leandro Los.
Like,
John Talbos is a very much like a positional fighter where it's like he wants to get under you, he wants to turn you, he wants to get on top, he wants to pass, he wants to get on top, and then he wants to get behind you and get to your back, and then the clock probably has run out by then. And like,
if not, then he'll finish.
Then he'll work to finish you, but really he wants to be earning the points, and then that's what he wants to be doing. Garmo's not built like that, and it's really fun to watch. That's the TLDR of what I'm getting to. Is like, I like watching guys that are willing, that are just like guys like David Garmo that will throw on you. It was a fun match. Garmo gets the win there.
Yeah. Again, the results aren't out as of 9/20 Sunday evening. The Tackett match I caught where he won by submission, and it was announced that he is now the purple belt and brown belt champion of his weight.
I love when that happens, when guys have, like, it's like, what happened? It's like, well, he had the purple belt title, then he got promoted, or he fought for the brown belt title. He technically still has titles, but he's probably not going to defend the lower belt title. He's probably going to just begin defending the brown belt title, which, again, I love to see. I love seeing that progression from the Tackett brothers, man. They're coming up, and it's been awesome to watch the ride. Very much looking forward to them.
So just keep an eye out for the results. We love giving them to you. We love making fun of each other when we can't say a name or we stumble over something.
It's great.
But keep an eye out for them. It was a really good card. Again, keep an eye on it. Watch it. Pick up the things that you want to pick up and forward tab through things that you find boring.
Yep. That does it. Let's move on to the preview for who's number one, Gordon Ryan versus Vagner Rocha. I kind of wish they had a number for these, because I realized that I very much like the number for like the UFCs and for the fight to wins. Like, I like having the number because it helps me keep them straight. Also, if your main event drops out or changes or whatever, like, I don't have to remember who it is. It's just like, oh yeah, that was, who's number one, 8. That was January of, 2021. Good to know.
Yeah.
But
it's
whatever.
Kind of like during the broadcast of the fights, the UFC fights last night, and they were like, oh, Volkanovski got, due to COVID-related issues, I'm like, just say he got the Rona.
He got the Rona.
That's what you mean.
And then Volkanovski was like, got the Rona.
And then he posted, he was like, I got the Rona.
I got this test, this test, and this test, and I got the Rona. And I was like, I wanted to see him fight Brian Ortega.
They ran the commercial for it still, and I'm like, hey guys, can we pull that out of the... And that might have been like an ESPN thing where they were like, we're leaving it in, and it's like, no, don't do that anymore. But off of that, do you want to talk about really quick the prelims, or do you just want to
Let's
talk about
go from the top of the like, 'cause I think we've got a lot to talk about for Gordon versus Vagner, and then we can move through, the rest as they be.
Or as you say, there's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about because I watched the hype video, and I got fucking hype about it, Josh. It is a 24.5-minute video.
Is it?
Go watch it. No, they have like interviews of Vagner at his school. They interview Jasmine Rocha talking about her dad, which is kind of adorable, and talks about like how he's a super nice guy.
Do you think it's in videos?
It's probably on YouTube, I think.
Oh, it's on YouTube.
Yeah, I think it's like a public thing. Like they were like, I'm gonna try to post it up on our page so people can find it.
It's right here. The road to who's number one, Gordon Ryan versus Vagner Rocha. It's 24 minutes and 12 seconds.
Yes, very good. It was very, very good. And so this is a trilogy match, and Vagner and Gordon have met 3 separate times. Gordon has defeated Vagner twice. Or say they've met twice. Gordon's defeated Vagner in both of them, correct? Or was the first one a draw?
Oh, shit.
He subbed Vagner last time at EBI in regulation.
I think he beat him in like an overtime or some shit like that by like escape time or something like that. Or maybe it was just
think
like,
he subbed him.
Or it went to decision for the first one, not for the second one.
For the first one. But that was also when Gordon was at 170. Remember this?
Yeah, I remember. Oh, that was really wild too. Thanks Facebook memories. When I was on the first fight to win that I was ever on in Jersey, and it was Gordon Ryan versus Hulk, and Gordon on the poster looked so small.
Huh?
I was like, fuck, he used to look like that.
Yep.
And I remember being in the locker room, Galvao's there, Hulk's there, oh Christ, who was it? The heavyweight fighter that backdropped Marcelo.
Rico Rodriguez.
Yes, Rico Rodriguez was in there too. Yeah. And
remember that card. I watched that card on my phone different card. That was the good fight card you were on.
He Rico's like, I don't know what Tom does. I was like, he plays half guard, and he goes, cool. And that was it. And then Andre and Hulk were in the back bottle flipping. Like, that's what they were doing, and just like joking around.
What is this, 2015, 2016? 2016.
4 years ago? 2017?
Early 2017.
Something like that. I can't remember.
That was fight to win 130. That was 36, right?
35 or 36.
36, I think you won. I think you were on 36. You won 36, and then you were on 53, and then 53 was when we started the show.
Yeah.
And then we've covered since then 130 fight to wins since then in a row. So moving on to this card. So this is a rematch. Gordon has defeated Vagner when he was smaller. He's defeated Vagner when he was a little smaller too. And most likely, Gordon has the edge going into this match.
He's going to get ragdolled.
In Gordon's first, it's in Gordon's rule set. Heavyweight match, 30 minutes, sub only. And Gordon said going into this match that like, look, Vagner kind of like was fucking with me when I was younger. He used to knock the crown off my head, do it. I'm gonna like
that.
Yeah, I do too. He's like, I'm gonna basically put him into a dark place, and then when he's ready to go, I'm gonna sub him. And Vagner was basically like, look, man, we kind of got to bury the hatchet. It was like a very kind of juxtaposition.
He's like, yo,
interview.
I'm older, and he was like, he slapped the shit out of Andre. He might be mad at me still. And on the real, like,
props to Vagner for actually taking the match because apparently
good for him. He's
no
heavier.
one out. Yeah, he's 85 now. He's 185
now. But dude, like, this isn't going to be competitive. This isn't going to be, Vagner enforcing like his stand up and being like Vagner. Gordon, if he doesn't feel like standing up with him, will just sit down, which will then make Vagner come into whatever type of guard. It's not, was he going to keep backing up?
Right. I mean, we've seen
Vagner
do that before, and we've seen Vagner play the game on the head.
And he'll do all that, but I don't think Gordon will care. He'll be like, all right, you're just doing something that's annoying me more, and I'm just going to fuck you up more when I get to a better position. And I've said it before, and I'll keep saying it. As a human being and as what Gordon Ryan thinks, I don't always agree with. Like, his personality is what's the word I'm looking for? That he's a cringy human being.
Give you that.
Like, as a person, and he's what, 25 years old? 23?
24, 25.
Something like
he's
that.
25.
He's a young kid that's, like, in jiu-jitsu has received everything. And he's really, the thing is, with jiu-jitsu, when it comes to purely just his jiu-jitsu, it's fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, everything he does is just amazing. Off the mats, different story. On the mats, wild. And it's like, if anybody says, like, well, would you say that to him? I'd be like, yeah, I think you're a cringy person, but I think your jiu-jitsu is fucking great.
Yeah.
Like, if
it kind of speaks for itself
for saying that, but this is how I feel. You can be like, well, fuck you, do what I do, and I can't. But on the mat, like, it's wild.
He's a wizard.
I really don't think Vagner poses any threat whatsoever. I think 30 minutes is too long. Like, unless Gordon is like, should I submit him at the 29-minute mark to John Danaher? And John Danaher might be like, yeah, that's a good idea. I don't see this going outside of like 12 minutes.
I could see it going a little longer just because I think that Wagner's going to play really heavy on the outside for a good 6 to 8 minutes of this match.
Gordon's going to sit. He'll just
he
be like, fine,
sit.
I'm going to sit, and I'm not going to deal with your
and
bullshit.
I think there's going to be a lot of...
And he's just going to snag onto something.
I think there's going to be a lot of inactivity at the beginning. And I feel like
first
Vagner,
2 or 3 minutes, yes.
Yes, I feel like Wagner's going to play on the outside. And then, so about 5 minutes in, we're starting to get a little engagement. We'll get Gordon trying to bring Wagner in with a... not an Imanari roll, but that kind of reverse shot roll that he does to try to grab the leg and pull you in, kind of like what Craig Jones does.
I don't think he's even going to do that. I think like he'll tie up with him and just pull him into butterfly and go from there.
Maybe. We haven't seen that from Gordon in a while. And that's why I don't think we're going to see it from him. We've seen him play the stand-up.
In my head is going to happen. He's going to submit him at exactly 29 minutes. He's going to beat him in under 15 minutes. Or he's going to come out like somebody lit him on fire, and he's going to beat him in under a minute. He's just going to come in and clown him. One of those three things is going to happen. I don't think it's going to go to decision, and I think Wagner is an excellent competitor. He's got great jiu-jitsu as well. I just don't think it's there for him.
We've seen the match before, and Gordon is...
bigger and better.
40 pounds heavier.
And older.
Yeah. And
like, he's got that experience.
It's a rough match. And it sucks because, honestly, I'd much rather see Wagner fight other guys at 185. But one's going to fight.
There's not a lot of people
But that's also why I'm, like, not too upset about the match, because it's like, okay, I like watching Gordon Jiu-Jitsu. I like watching Wagner fight. And if
glad that he took the match.
Wagner's the only fucking guy that's going to fight him.
Yeah.
Props to you, Wagner, man. I'll watch you fight all day.
I'll still watch it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I will still watch this card. Hopefully there's not like all the fucking lag in between like there was last time. I will go crazy. But I don't see Wagner's path to victory at all.
Yeah, it's tough.
And I can't say like more about that. There's not another way for me to be like...
Yeah. So let's move on then.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Nick Rodriguez versus Yuri Simões. We haven't seen Nick Rodriguez in a minute
here. He was doing shit with WWE developmental, going to a bunch of the camps.
He wasn't he?
I don't know what else he's doing.
He's moving. He's living in Puerto Rico now, and he's training hard as shit. And we're seeing more of his guard game.
Focused on that, and that's great. That's awesome. The fact that Yuri Simões thinks that he's a better wrestler and people are agreeing with that blows my fucking mind. I'm like,
a little crazy.
No, he's not.
It's a little crazy.
Yuri Simões' wrestling for jiu-jitsu is good.
Yeah, he's taking
against guys that are like
jiu-jitsu guys.
Okay at wrestling. Nick Rodriguez will put up. I mean, what is Yuri doing? He's like training to fight.
Well, he had a fight. He had his first fight in ONE FC, and now he's back.
He looked like trash.
He didn't have a great fight. I'll give him that.
I love how like I'm so negative
Yeah.
today. He didn't look good in that fight, and Rodriguez is going to put a pace like that. 15 minutes, he's just going to come in. He's going to go. Ham.
What I'm super curious about is, again, Yuri obviously has the experience. Nick obviously has the athleticism, and Nick has been trained. We haven't seen Nick. I mean, think about what I'm super excited about.
He's been in the background. We haven't
seen him. What I'm
competing.
super excited about is like Nick Rodriguez went from like who is this guy to ADCC silver medalist in about 12 months. Okay, 18 months of training to that. We haven't seen Nick in
almost a year now.
We saw him at Third Coast. But, like, it's been...
Oh, yeah.
Been 6-8 months?
Yeah.
Like, it's been a minute. How much better has that fucking dude gotten?
Frightening.
That's my question, because it's like Nick Rodriguez jumps in the skill level, and you see what he posts, you see him working out, you see him training. Like, he is a workhorse. What Nick are we going to see? Because Yuri is a 2-time ADCC champion. Yuri's a gangster. Yuri has a depth of skills in his guard game and in his passing game that is of the like echelon of guys that have troubled Rodriguez historically.
He doesn't have that same game plan or same style as Kynan.
No, not at all.
Kynan was like, Kynan will stop him. And you'll see that, and he'll just his wealth of knowledge will do that.
Yuri will try to play jiu-jitsu with you a little bit.
Yuri will play his jiu-jitsu with it. That's the thing. And I don't know if Nick's game plan is to just beat the brakes off of him with like pressure and cardio and just like move. Because saw and we've seen it before with the people that are coming out of Jersey from Jay Regalbuto, where he's like training these dudes and you're just like, where are you finding these psychopaths?
Mm-hmm.
And how are you coaching them to where they get so good so quickly? Like, they have athletic talent, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's something where they're like, we're going to listen to this guy, and we're also going to keep our own personal work ethic. And he's created monsters. And, you know, if you follow Jay's Instagram, he's still doing that.
Which is crazy.
But now you've got Nick Rodriguez, who came from that, like, Jay Regalbuto part, and now he's with Danaher.
The premier no-gi squad in the world.
He is with the jiu-jitsu savant, the jiu-jitsu psychopath. He is American Psycho. He is the Patrick Bateman of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. And then, you train with Gordon every day.
You've got Gordon,
and you train with
you've got
Craig
Gary,
every
you've
day.
got Nick, you've got
Ethan,
Craig, you've
Taza.
got Ethan, Oliver. Like, you've got all of these people flocking into one area, and skill-wise, he's like the worst one.
Silver medalist at ADCC is
but skill-wise,
that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the crazy thing is, like, you now give that guy that I haven't seen in 6 or 8 months.
I don't even want to know
what on earth
it looks like.
And the crazy thing is he's been working his guard, because that's always the area we talked about where you guys like had the biggest problems in his game was like, his guard passing was not like super great at the high level. Like, you would have guys at the elite level that would trip him up in the guard because he just didn't have the depth of skill to figure out how to get around it if he couldn't just blow past you, which he could for any other guy except the elite level guys. But he'd get to your back eventually. He'd figure out, like, I'm just going to cartwheel over you and get there, or he'd go underneath and get there. Like, I mean, even at ADCC finals, so you kind of forget, he almost had Kaynan Duarte's back in the closing moments of that match. Like, we all kind of think, Kaynan took it, and then he heel hooked him 2 weeks later. Like, Yeah, no, that match was very, very competitive with Kynan and ADCC. Like, everyone thinks that everyone seems to remember this match as not being as competitive as it was.
It was close.
Very, very close match.
Then, like, 2 weeks later, it changed. So,
It
like,
did
both
change.
of their skill gap, like, the skill gap showed more because one guy
Yes.
kept training afterwards, but it was like, I know I have to compete against you, and now I'm going to change up a little bit. And, you know,
now again,
steroids.
But now I'm super curious about what Rodriguez looks like 8 months later, and like
Yoked as fuck.
how he deals with Yuri's guard, because he's gonna take Yuri. If Yuri stands with Rodriguez, I think that Rodriguez will take him down.
I think Rodriguez is going to plant his forehead in Yuri's stomach and double leg the shit out of him.
I do too. So once he double legs the shit out of him,
But not
onto the
into
mat,
his guard. Like, I think he's
gonna pass.
I think he's going to double leg him right into side control or
And then-
half guard.
and then so what does Rodriguez's
He stays
top game
low
look like?
and glued, hopefully, and starts to work and like and just pinch the legs and try to climb up. And, you know, in comparison, I think Yuri's passing is better than Rodriguez's guard. But
So how does
Who knows?
how does Yuri turn Rodriguez over in that position is really what I'm thinking about here for the dynamic of the match.
if his passing isn't up to snuff, like, and you're stuck in guard, eventually you're going to get tripped up. Like,
Yeah.
again, the skill gap, the knowledge gap is going to catch up with you. But I think Rodriguez is just going to be on his toes, both physically and metaphorically.
And that's
just
sort
moving.
of where I think that Rodriguez always has really understood where his edge is and can push that and stick to a game plan so well. I just don't know how that game plan is going to look differently.
I'm
Gives
gonna
too much
go
time.
with like the most ridiculous. I'm playing with
know.
the thing. Sorry, I'm
Fidgety.
I'm not bouncing my feet at least. I'm gonna go on a limb and say the most ridiculous shit, and that is Nick Rodriguez beats Yuri Samos by bulldog choke.
See, the problem is that's actually not as ridiculous.
Right.
It's not, which I'm
Exactly.
upset that you're saying it.
But it isn't at the
Because
same time.
Nick Rodriguez will grab that low side control and just squeeze on your head, and he'll let
Yo, could
Yuri
you
start
imagine
to
if he
escape out
front
the back.
headlock? If he oh my goodness. Oh,
It could
God.
happen. I
That
mean,
would
it
be
could happen.
so
Again,
fucking funny.
it also wouldn't surprise me too much to have Yuri like pass him and then get
just-
to his back.
Yeah.
That's why it's like. That's why I'm honestly super excited about this match, because we've seen
It's
Yuri
very interesting.
like Yuri had a very competitive match with Gordon Ryan at IBJJF Worlds 2 years ago. Like, Gordon's gotten a lot better since then. We haven't seen as much from Yuri, but like could contend with Gordon in a realm where very few guys could. A couple of years ago, got 2 ADCC medals.
In a specific
Gold
rule
medals.
set, though, like you took away a lot of Gordon's
correct.
attacks,
but also
partially.
2 ADCC gold medals. Like, he's been there, he's done the thing, he knows the thing.
Gordon's got 3.
He does. I'm saying it's a really
Rodriguez has got 1 too.
it's a really interesting match. Very curious to see. I think Nick gets it done, but it would not surprise me to see Yuri play spoiler here. I just better understand Nick's pathway to victory here.
If I'm right and he wins by bulldog choke, I need everyone to Venmo me $5 just because I'm like fucking Nostradamus.
I'll do it. If he wins by bullet choke, I'll Venmo you 50.
Let's go to the next one because this is also a very intriguing match. Mikey Musamechi versus Marcelo Cohen.
This is Mikey's first no-gi match since 2016.
That's 5-year
That's
gap.
5 years.
Mikey Musamechi, again, is one of those jiu-jitsu savants where, like, he is a wizard. And, yes, he hasn't done no-gi stuff. Don't get me wrong. but-
Only American world champion to do it twice and did it 3 times.
Yeah. Like,
Bruno Malfacine.
the kid is
Fastest footlock
sick.
in, I was going to say UFC history. Fastest submission in a world finals match, beating Compredo by a second. Like,
The dude is sick. And, honestly, like, not shitting on Marcelo Cohen, but I think they're gearing Mikey up for ADCC.
yeah, I mean, Mikey got the invite for 2019 for ADCC. He, injury, I think, or something pulled out, didn't do it. There's been a big discussion that Mikey was going to do more and make a bigger focus on no-gi, especially leading into the next ADCC, that it is not an uncommon or not out of the realm that he will get another invite, especially given his continued performance in the gi. Again, same reason Margali got an invite is because, like, crazy good grappler, you kind of are curious. Marcelo Cohen is a fairly decorated, very he competes
competent,
a ton, competent, like runs the armory, like been around for a long time. And
he's a good grappler.
He's a good grappler. You know, he struggled against some of the elite guys in the fight to win. We saw him get heel hooked by Junie. He's kind of gone back and forth with some of those guys. Very frequent in the mix for the titles in fight to win.
But this is a great test for Mikey in the no-gi arena. Whereas, like, you're used to seeing him in the gi, but he's obviously, like, making these steps outside of his comfort zone, like doing the absolutes and now doing no-gi.
I'm super happy that we're not seeing him in, like, a heavyweight matchup for this. I like that Marcelo Cohen is, again, another bantamweight, another smaller guy on the roster that's going to be this is going to have size parallel with Musamechi. The dynamics of this match are really interesting. I'm very curious to see if Mikey is able to bolo Marcelo Cohen without the grips.
I think he'll be able to. I mean, look at, like, the Mendes brothers, for instance.
Yeah.
Or Cobrinha. Like, they still boloed people without it. He's going to know how to do this.
I know he's going to do.
I don't know who he's training with at Boop's Garage BJJ, which is who he's listed under.
I have no idea.
I don't know what the hell that is, and you can't find anything about it.
Nope.
I don't know if it's just, like, some kind of joke. I don't know who he's been training with.
That is a weird thing, like a guy that high level that sort of
He's bounced around a lot though. Like
he has.
He was with
prior
AJ Sousa. He was with Gilbert Dorino Burns. He was with Atos. He was with.
You mean post his leaving of?
No, pre.
Okay.
Kyotera.
Yeah. I forgot he was at Atos. I always forget that he was at Atos for a little bit before he found Kaio and they decided to train with Kaio for what was
everybody
that?
thought
4
he was
years?
Going to go to Atos when he was like, "Where are you going to end up?"
Right,
and that's where he ended up.
So he has bounced around before, like historically.
He's bounced around, but
it is like, weird to see him kind of not have a place that he's consistently training for this amount of time. Again, of all of the years to kind of uproot your training, 2020 was a tough year to do that, but. Again, that you kind of question his training situation and, like, is he getting the high-level rounds? I assume he is because he's Mikey Musamechi. But, again, it does bring a thought. Your first match in 5 years, Nogi. Marcelo Cohen had a match, like, 2-3 weeks ago in Nogi. I think he's on Combat Jiu-Jitsu this week. I think he's in that bracket. I could be wrong. I thought he was in that.
Then he lost.
I thought he was in that bracket.
He might be in it, but... I was watching it, actually. Well, I wasn't watching it. I was listening to it on my phone on the way here.
Yeah, I'm super curious. Yeah, Marcelo Cohen.
Yeah, okay. So he didn't make it into the...
Yeah, he was I think he lost first round.
Who did he go against first round?
Taylor Nuasa. That guy we've seen on Combat Jiu-Jitsu before and Fight to Win before.
Maybe he made that. I can't remember.
He would have had Alarcon in his second round match.
Alarcon was in the semifinals as I was getting...
That would have been semifinals, but yeah.
That would have been quarterfinals. But anyway, it's intriguing. I think Musamechi is going to win. It's going to be interesting to see his no-gi game since we haven't seen it in a long time.
Next match, we got Magu Granddaddy versus Rafael Gettys. This is a rougher match for Granddaddy. This is a tough match for Granddaddy. Gettys has looked crazy good.
6 handfuls for Granddaddy.
Yeah.
Like, Gettys has been on a tear since getting her black belt.
That match versus Elizabeth Clay is the one that kind of sticks, like the game plan. And then 2 weeks later versus Anna Carolina.
Did Clay beat Granddaddy?
I don't
think they've gone against each other.
No, I don't believe so.
But, like... Again,
it might have been a purple belt. I don't think they fought at black belt.
Maybe, but Rafaela Gettys is just like, she's scary good.
And she can do the thing that I like that most athletes can't do. She can play a different game.
She plays from wherever. She, again, is one of those people where it's like, she'll go with it. Is she going to try to impose where she wants you to be? Yes. But if she's somewhere where it's like, oh, okay, well, I can still fuck you up from right here.
Right.
This is a tall order for Granddaddy.
This is tall for anyone in the division.
Good. She is really good. We've seen her, but I think Gettys is bigger than her, number one, like just in general, like weight-wise. And Gettys has just been on this tear.
Yeah.
She's been on this tear. I think Granddaddy, she's not like a featherweight or anything. I think she's a lightweight.
I think she's I could be wrong about that. She's bigger than me, but that's not saying much because I'm a small man.
You're 15 pounds.
Also, she was in heels when I interviewed her, so.
I remember seeing her when she was at Purple Belt in Maryland, and
versus Vanessa Griffin for the brown belt title.
Yes,
I remember that. Yep, we were at that weigh-ins.
She's shorter than I am, like when we were both.
Is she really?
Feet, but not by much.
Okay, and you're a little taller than me.
Yeah, and I'm not a tall human being. Or I could be completely misremembering, and she could have towered over me.
It's a tough match. It's a match that I honestly think.
Is it no-gi? I'm assuming these are all no-gi.
No-gi. I assume it's no-gi. Again, if it's gi, again,
it's still a tough match.
But super interesting, super curious match. Both women that I really enjoy seeing their games develop. For both new black belts 2020. So good matchup, just a very, very tall order for Maggie in this one.
Granddaddy was a black belt in 2019. She did Worlds. Didn't she?
No, she did Euros as black belt. Black belt Euros was her first black belt competition. Huh. I remember this because I specifically interviewed her and spoke to her about it because she talked about having a rough time at the Euros in the beginning of 2020, and that was the last normal event we had of 2020. So that's that match. Next match, Johnny Tama versus Oliver Taza. For some reason, I thought Oliver Taza was 190.
I think he was the heavier guy in the fight to win.
That was over 180.
I don't think he's really that big. I think he just took that spot.
Taza's the guy that I consistently mess up the weight. Johnny Tama is a lightweight at his heaviest. But again, he's a guy that will hop in with the open weights frequently. He was an alternate for a while for the heavyweight GP for one of the third coasts. He's a dude. He's a gangster. He'll do it all. How do you see this one going, Josh? This is, for me, very, very simple. Taza's going to hunt for the heel hook or the knee bar, and Tama is going to try to pass and play on top.
Oh, you're right. He's a middleweight.
Yeah, he's a big dude. He's not
Unless he's been I'm looking at all these people he's gone against.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Combs and the one. Well, no, I think he just fights.
Combs is 165. All right, so here's a picture of him next to Nicky Ryan. Nicky Ryan's 170.
No, first of all, that is a juicy picture.
It is a juicy picture.
That is a juicy picture.
It is a juicy picture. Instagram, we're looking at there. I'm trying to compare the size of the guys.
So he fought ADCC at 77 kilos, which is...
And he was small for that. He was not, he was sucked down to get to 77. And 77 is, I think, 154.
77 is just under 170.
169, 8, I think.
Yeah.
As I remember how to do math here at the last second.
Yeah, but this will be interesting. They're both good at leg locks. I think Tolliver is better. Or Tolliver. Taza. Taza is better than...
Tama has a leg lock named after him. The Tama lock. Yeah. Again, I don't foresee Taza being able to leg lock Johnny Tama.
It's just interesting that they're doing this at lightweight, but both of them have been doing welterweight and middleweight. So he had a run just going into his history. He
or Taza or
Tama.
Tama.
He's taken a lot of L's as of recently. He's had 2 wins in let's see, how many wins did he have in 2020?
Johnny Tama was taking a ton of matches just all over the place weight-wise.
He had 2 wins in 2020. He fought Najmi at 170. Yep. He fought Jonatas Gracie at 170. He beat Krellinston at 170 at a different fight to win. He lost to Dante Leon, Valdir Arujo, Pedro Marinho twice.
Osvaldo Moizinho, Renato Canuto.
Jonathan Alves, Michael Lira Jr. but they're both heavier. So it's interesting to see like that they're at lightweight because again, Maine and I were discussing this, that they use MMA weights.
Which I personally like. It's just, I kind of like the standardization of the weights. It's way easier to do like 10-pound-ish increments, and then at the heavy weights, everyone kind of just like feathers away.
That's small for both of them, but I think Taza takes this one by leg lock.
Really?
I mean, Taza just recently went against one of the guys that I had a super fight against, and that guy's like 220, 215.
Yeah.
So
Taza's a big dude. So there's also some other prelims on the card.
Colabate, who's from Colorado but moved to Atos. Seth's really like heavy on him. Like
he's featured a lot on Fight to Win.
Yes.
Yep.
And then Ned Johnson from 10th Planet. It'll be interesting, Nogi wise, with Cole being like training with the Mendez brothers. I'm pretty sure he's a monster.
He is definitely a monster. We've seen him on highlights on Fight to Win, especially you can check the Instagram Fight to Win. There's highlights of him on that as well.
But you also have Tackett versus Andrew Tackett versus Sean Yadamarco.
A guy I'm not as familiar with.
No, but Tackett again is Andrew Tackett's also been on a tear recently. It's a good card. The prelims are on Flow's YouTube and Facebook. Obviously, the main card is on Flow Grappling itself. It's great that they're showing some of these things. Let's not drag out the in-between because that's how you lose eyes on viewership. It's like, let's not do that.
That would be great. So that's all I got for that card. Let's move on to Fight to Win 168, happening the day after on March 27th. This one is headlined by Natalia DeJesus versus Kendall Riesling. I'm excited about this match. Yes, I can never pronounce her last name correctly.
Riesling,
right?
Reusing.
I
think, yeah. Well, from what I see, this is also fantastic. Thank you, Flo or whoever, letting us know if it's in the gi or in no gi. I love it.
Is it?
Yes. So if you go,
click on the super fights. Look at that.
Look at that.
Yeah,
fancy.
I love that.
So we only have like four of the matches right now up here. I'd assume like they're getting finished up or they're already done.
Usually the week before they preview, they give you 4, and then as the week goes on, the rest of the matches for the undercard for the ladies get released.
But you have Natalie Nacchielli, Jesus DeJesus, whatever, versus Kendall Riesling. Nacchielli has been doing very well. She just had that no-gi match with...
Just beat Gabby Garcia. Just became the only woman to beat Gabby Garcia gi and no-gi.
So you know she can handle, like, strength.
I ain't picking anyone against DeJesus right now.
Right now. But Kendall is... She was on commentary, and I think she had surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this might be her first match back from that.
Kendall's a gangster. Very, very good. I
good.
know
It's
her much for her more for her no-gi work than I do for her gi work. But
she wrestled, right?
Yes. Yep. Yes. Wrestled. She has a really...
I was thinking judo at first, but I was like, no, she wrestled.
She wrestled. I think she was a state champion. I know her more for her no-gi work, for her ADCC trial stuff. Again, in the gi, I got to pick Jesus. Like, this is just a straight...
Oh, absolutely.
This is just a straight... You have shown me that...
Who has world medals in the gi? DeJesus.
Yeah, it's just... I don't know where she'll take it. It wouldn't surprise me to see DeJesus get on Kendall's back here, because we've seen her sort of pathwaying towards the back, using her guard. She has a really great guard game that she's been sweeping from recently, pulling and then going into that. Probably doesn't want to stand too long with Kendall, given Kendall's like kind of mix between wrestling and judo game that she'll throw. Most likely going to go to the guard, going to pull, going to come down, going to go. Eventually, we'll probably get to the back. I'm not sure what she does off the back, but that's sort of how I see the dynamic of the match going. Again, I'm not betting against Jesus, but again, Kendall has impressed me many, many times in the past. So very, very fun match. I assume it's the main event. Potentially for the heavyweight belt, as I think DeJesus has that.
I think.
I could be incorrect, but I think she has that.
No, it's not Flowers, because the next match, Luisa Montero beat her. The last match she had, she beat her by toe hold.
And she has the belt now. So Flowers is now the title holder at that weight.
No.
I mean, sorry. Luisa Montero is now the title holder at that weight because she took it off of Flowers.
Okay, yeah, but I think that's like at least one weight class underneath.
Yes.
To Jesus. So you have Luisa Montero versus Veda Toscano. Montero's last like 6 matches, she's all won. She actually beat Kendall Reusing. So that's another thing too. Like, is Kendall really as big as Nachielli? Like,
I
the
think
size
so.
might be.
I think she is. I think that's honestly a match where there's definitely size parity between the two competitors.
This will be good. Veda is a great gi competitor as well. So this is going to be. Montero's been making. She's a world champion too, and she's been making like this surge.
Yeah, Montero's last 3 matches, I've been very, very impressed with the pace that she's pushing and her continuing ability to attack late into the match.
And with like
the toe hold I think she hit on Flowers was like in the last minute of the match, I think. I think it was in like the dying 30 or 40 seconds of the match, and I was like, it's a bullshit toe hold at the end, and she gets it done. It was a topside toe hold. It was a really good setup.
Veda is actually bigger, and she's lost to Jessica Flowers and things like that. It'll be interesting to see what happens. The match before it, or I don't know where it is in the card, but you have Maria Maljasic versus Hanette Stack. Maljasic has a higher pace than Stack does. Mm-hmm. Stack has way more world championships than Maljasic does.
We saw Stack on the last female card for Fight to Win like 4 weeks ago. It was an old school match. I forget.
Anna Carolina's wife. She was from Alliance. I'm blanking on her name right now.
I'm looking at her face. Can't get her name.
Oh, what's her name?
Anna Carolina?
No. Anna Carolina's wife. Partner. She's from Alliance. She has world championships.
Yeah. I'm looking at her face and I can't. It's killing me now.
Yep.
Long blonde-haired woman.
Well, why don't... It's like brownish. Why don't I just click on her name? That'll be interesting because you have Luana Alzugir.
There we go. Yeah.
There we go. You have 2 different... You have like kind of like power versus style, where Maria is more of the style and Hanette is more of the power. Still really good. That's honestly like a toss-up match for me. Mm-hmm. I can't say for sure if...
I do want to give the edge to Maria.
My safe bet is Hanette, and you're giving the edge to Maria.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. And then finally, we're getting into a no-gi match. You have Amanda Tubby Aliquin versus Gabby McComb. Tubby's looked really good recently.
Mm-hmm.
Her husband's actually looked really good too. Like, he's won his last 2 that I've seen him in. And Tubby's like she's a hard-nosed competitor. So it'll be... Again, I got to side with Tubby on this one. She's just been like... I've seen her more frequently, I think. I don't know. No. I'm thinking McComb is somebody else.
Yeah, now it's kind of like...
Well, no, I mean, like, don't get me... She's beaten her.
Yep. McComb has a win over Aliquin.
Featherweight in
2 years ago. And
no, last year at the Pans.
And in the split decision at 2019 at Fight to Win at 140.
Oh, yeah, I see that. So this is a rematch.
Uh-huh. And at lightweight.
Or the trio.
And at lightweight previously. Yeah, no, I'm going to give this to McComb again.
Oh,
She beat her 3 times. I'm going to give it to her again. I need to go back and watch these matches.
2 of them are in the gi. I don't know if another one was in the gi. But, like, they all have, like, what's it called? They've jumped around a lot in divisions.
Yeah.
They recently met in the gi at featherweight. But then, McComb's coming off of losses to Talita Alencar and Rafaela Gettys.
Yep.
So it's...
But again, those 2 matches, I thought she looked very good in those matches. Those were very high-paced matches. Those were fun matches that I thought she looked good. defensively looked good in those matches.
After going back and looking at that, I'm like,
but also think about Alan Carr, and that was the first match that we saw. Alan Carr had the full gas for the entire match. That was really impressive.
That's right.
Yes.
Man, it's hard
and then
keeping track of
Gettys,
this shit.
And then Gettys is also that match pushed the pace the entirety of the match. Like those were two very, very impressive performances from both Alan Carr and Gettys. I am going to go with Gabby here just as a numbers game, having previous victories over Tabi Aliquin. Again, Tabi would surprise me.
I'm readjusting my pick. Yes,
but so should be a really
that you
fun
can
card.
Look at their things.
Dude, it's so helpful now.
So helpful.
In a couple months, we'll be used to it and like not be trying to do it as we're talking. And like, oh yeah, I forgot that they fought each other before. But again, we're gonna get back into it. I'm getting a bunch of new camera gear. That's all I got for Fight to Win 168. That's all the matches that we have announced at this time. Super great card. I love that they're doing the women's jiu-jitsu events every month now. It is awesome to see. I am so happy about it because
have you noticed women's matches on the regular cards for Fight to Win? Not all women.
I had, but not as many.
Okay, maybe just because of like the times we're in, they're like dialing it back a little bit to make sure that they have like a full stacked card of females, which I'm fine with.
Yeah, no, I honestly like the women's card because it puts a focus on it, and then it gives me a chance to put all of them in the same card. It gives me a chance to review through all of the records at the same time. For me as a housekeeping item, I like it a lot because it forces me to go through all of the records
great,
repeatedly.
But I don't want it to become like
its own thing.
Because they very much put forward female jiu-jitsu on the regular cards. So I don't want the once a month is like the big I like the once a month as a showcase, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't want that to be the complete focus for women where it becomes like two separate events almost, where it's like one's women and one's men.
Yeah. Like an Invicta or like a Deep Jewels or something like that.
I just want it mixed.
Yeah, no,
it's just like they're on there, and don't get me wrong, like
I think right now
you can still have the end of the month where it's all women. Great.
Yeah, no, I love it. I gotta like it because it makes me go through the records, and I go through a bunch of women's records at the same time when doing previews for matchups and looking at like cards. I find it very helpful in becoming more familiar with all the women and all the grapplers because they're just a smaller pool, and so we don't see those matches as frequently in aggregate from all the matches we cover. So it forces me, and it gives me a chance to go through more of those records. I like that. I love the cards. I would love to continue to see them once a month for the future because it's awesome. And there's always great talent showcase, and it puts a focus on women's jiu-jitsu. It is Women's History Month in March, so it's great to see. Josh, that's all I got for previews. What's your week look like?
Dog training.
You got a new dog.
Yes, he is great.
As my dog sits beside us right now and lays and hangs out.
I have that. Kids at home that I'm helping with online schooling stuff, which is interesting and has been since we've been doing it. Getting back into the flow of like working out. I don't know. I'll call it. I made the mistake of telling my wife that I would run with her. So I would start running again because I hate running.
Not great.
She is going to bother the shit out of me and be like, come on, you said you would run. And she will not let me not run. So
Josh can make your welterweight debut again.
I'm going to shit my pants and probably throw up all over myself from running. I haven't done it in a long time. Getting back into training because I'm vaccinated. And God, that feels awful. Like even the jiu-jitsu cardio is gone right now. It's bad. But other than that, just like focusing on a lot of stuff. Been doing a lot of cooking, which is, my chosen profession, which is great. A lot of shit talking to Maine. A lot of regular talking to Maine, but he's not sure if I'm shit talking because text messages don't.
They don't convey. We got heated earlier this week. It was good.
He was like, what? And I'm like, bro, I'm just saying this. And he's like, oh, I thought you were being a dick. I was like, oh no. That's what I like about our. Where I'm not.
That's what I like about our interactions. I can just tell that to you and be like, oh yeah, definitely. It's like,
or
no,
like
I'm not.
When Zach was being a dick when we were talking about the audio for Gordon, and I told him I hope he got his dick stuck in his zipper
that happens sometimes. So,
Yeah.
as far as the week goes for me, I'm just doing mainly like job and surgery prep because I got a wedding coming up that I'm now in like the thralls of like, oh, I gotta actually plan like wedding stuff and like.
I really just want you to come down the aisle in a fucking motorized wheelchair. Like, no joke.
The spine surgery is too low. It's not going to make him paralyzed. That's the one thing I'm happy about.
Sure?
I asked the guy specifically. He's like, no, it's too. I'm not sure because it's spine, and that's what the knowledge is.
He's gonna hit one fucking nerve, and here you come.
I hope he doesn't clippy snippy me. I did play wheelchair rugby for like murder ball for like 3 years in college, like regularly before I started jiu-jitsu.
It's a thing where people like that are not paralyzed play with people that are.
Yeah.
But man, it had to suck for you because I've watched that shit and they just fucking crash.
Oh yeah, they crash hard. It was
and they're like, we don't give a shit. We can't feel it.
It was great.
And I'm like,
one of my buddies, and they had the place we go. They had a bunch of like extra chairs, and so they like needed people a lot of times. So like they were loving us to come. We were like coming in shape. I bring other guys who were like in my chem classes and stuff. That like, is this what
it seems
allowed
so
to
like
do this?
interesting, and those guys are just like they seem like so much fun.
It's fun as shit. If you ever get a chance to be part of like any local community like that and like support that kind of stuff, even we just talk about jiu-jitsu mostly, but there are other great hobbies and endeavors you can do. Wheelchair rugby I found was really really great to be part of the years that I was in it before I got into jiu-jitsu, and that took all of my time. I'm hoping that I will not be forced to play that instead of do jiu-jitsu, but I got a surgery in 3 weeks.
We're so negative about it, and specifically me, where it's like, man, I hope you become paralyzed. Like, I hope this routine surgery paralyzes you.
I really hope it doesn't.
It's like, God,
Josh,
is a piece of shit.
Yeah, but it's funny, Josh, because I don't want to hear you be. I don't want to hear you be sappy and like, oh man,
funny.
It's funnier this way.
In between us, but I guarantee you, people are like, that comes across so bad.
We get messages occasionally.
Oh. Yeah, I'm sure.
Occasionally about like Josh is a dick. Like, yeah, but he's he's our dick. He's our dick, and like you got to be around him and know.
I'm always just like I'm on the side of just like being super self-deprecating, and I want other people to be that way too, even though it's not like the greatest thing. And I love being negative because it's more amusing to me because I have a very terrible sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, oh, well, are you making fun of paralyzed people? It's like, no.
I'm making fun of Maine.
I'm making fun of Maine specifically.
And that's what makes it funny.
And
I'm me, and that's what makes it funny to me because I'm laughing because we had the broken back bet that I lost.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I had to show you the picture. You're like, yeah, that's my spine, and it's got a little chunk that's chipped out of it. And you're like, it's actually broken? I'm like, it's actually broken. And you were like, I'm so sorry. You're like, no, it's funny. It's really, really funny.
Like I was like, I bet you your back is broken. Oh, no, it's probably just, this. And it's like, did I feel bad that I was right? Yes, but also it was kind of funny.
Was it kind of funny? Definitely.
Are you 27 or 28 now?
29.
Oh, fuck.
I'm not even 30 yet.
Okay, you're not even 30 and you have like a spine injury. You don't think about that. The shit that I've done in my lifetime where I've been like, I should possibly be dead, if not paralyzed. There have been so much shit where my body is folded in half the way it should not fold.
Yeah.
And I was like, how am I still alive? How am I, how did I not have an injury? I've taken bad hits. I've been dropped on my neck. Like,
Josh, because you're lucky. And I am not, and that's sometimes how the cookie crumbles. But it is what it is.
Lucky,
I'm still living a pretty great life, and I'm hopefully gonna get the surgery and then go back to like.
Hopefully everything like turns out to where you have some semblance of not being in pain all the time, and you actually get to train.
I would enjoy that.
Other things, but even if like it's just you have to give up jiu-jitsu in the sense of you training. I know that'll crush you.
Yeah.
It would crush me. But you would still be involved with it, like, via this.
Look at this. Josh, there's a reason I've bought a lot. I've spent a lot of money on camera gear because as soon as I'm good, we are going to film a lot of stuff on location.
There is a giant camera rig that is set up right now that Maine sent us a picture yesterday. Was it yesterday?
Yesterday. It was yesterday. It came off Facebook Marketplace, and I was like, I'm going to drive like really far away to go purchase this immediately.
Yo, this thing was enormous. And then I get here, and he's like, oh, look, it came with this and this and this, and I didn't have to spend that much money to get it. Good for you.
So we're going to film some really cool stuff coming up. This has been like the longest outro ever, but
Who
look
cares?
for good things. Even if my backyology doesn't go great, there's still lots more grappling.
Bacchiotomy. At least get it right.
Backyology, Josh. I got a degree in backyology at this point. Even if it doesn't go great, there's still lots of Grappling Rewind content to come. I'm going to be on my ass for like 6 to 8 weeks after this. So
Again, can you get an inversion table or like a bed?
all I'm going to do is edit. So, Josh, any other comments before we end this
Have
long
a
rambling
great
show?
week. If you're training, awesome. If you're not, also awesome because you're probably staying safe and not being a fucking idiot like the rest of us. Be good out there. And that's really it.
As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine.
And I'm Josh.
And we are the Grappling Rewind, and we'll see you on the mats whenever that is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google Plus.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
Let us know.
reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.